Have you ever wished you could read someone's mind or telepathically communicate with them? Hi, I'm Dylan from AYCB, and today we're doing a video review of The Mind, a fantastic little card game where you'll feel like you can do both. It's for 2 to 4 players. It plays in about 20 minutes, give or take, maybe a little bit more. It depends on the group and how far you make it, but it's a pretty short game. We like to call it a palate cleanser in our group. It's great at the end of the night after you've played a bunch of really heavy games or just, one really long game, and everyone kind of wants to play something new, but they don't have a lot of time to do like a full hour or 2-hour game. This was the perfect game to throw down in that situation, and it just ended with tons of laughs. Everyone had a great time playing it. I love this game. Let me tell you why. In terms of artwork and components, it's a pretty small game. There's not a lot here. Everything you see in front of me, this is the entire game. It all comes in this small box, super portable. You're not going to have any trouble finding place for this on your shelf. It'll pretty much squeeze in anywhere. What you get with the game is just a ton of cards. That's it. You'll get a stack of 100 cards that are all numbered 1 to 100. Huge numbers on them, very legible. So if you have a full group of 4 and on a bigger table, you're not going to have anybody squinting trying to see like what number was just put down. That's probably the most important thing, and they nailed it there. You'll also get 12 level cards, which is just basically to indicate what level of the game you're on. The game scales depending on the group. So in a 2-player game, there's 12 levels you have to get through, whereas in a 4-player game, there's only 8 levels. And then you'll get your extra life cards. With this rabbit on the front, I'll talk about in a second, and then your throwing star cards, and that's the entire game. So in terms of components, not a lot, which I think is great for this type of game. In terms of artwork and theme, if you're a person who's really drawn into a game because of the theme and because of the artwork, there's nothing wrong with everything that's in the box. It's not necessarily going to be a game that pulls that kind of board gamer in. The number cards, while they're perfect to serve their purpose, it's just a number with sort of like a white halo around them to bring emphasis to it. They have extras in the corners that are upside down. In case you're looking at it upside down, you can still read the number, which is great. And for organizing your hand, it makes it very easy. So I think, like, in terms of what you'd expect from this game, the components are great. There's nothing over the top here. There's nothing that's going to wow you when you open it up. It serves its purpose. Nothing wrong with it. But nothing exceptional about it either. I did want to talk about this little bunny rabbit for a second. Closest thing to a theme is the guy that's on the cover of the box on these cards. He's also on the level cards. That's pretty much the mascot of The Mind. I don't quite know if there's an inside story on this character, or what his purpose is. It's not really explained anywhere. If you know what it's all about, I would love to find out, just to feed my own curiosity. That's the closest thing to a theme in this game, but again, didn't bother me. Probably won't bother you unless that's something you really value in your board games. All right, let's talk about the design of this game. Now, on the surface, I know that this looks like a really simplistic game, and the core mechanic is really simple. Everyone has a hand of cards, and you are literally just playing cards to the center of the table in ascending order. That is the entire game. So if you play a 30 and I have a 35, I'm wanting to put down the 35, and you just want to keep it going all the way until everyone's hands are emptied, and then you start a new level. Every level, whatever the level number that you're on is, that's how many cards are in your hand. So the game gets harder in the sense that when you're on level 12, everyone has a hand of 12 cards, which is a lot harder than a hand of 1. So it seems super simple, but what really makes The Mind a fantastic game in my book is the spin on that mechanic of no communication. And that's not something that hasn't been done before. It's been done in a lot of games. The interesting thing in this game is it really does feel like you make a connection with the players on the table without having to say a word. And even cooler than that is that every time I've played The Mind, with different people, depending on the group I've played with, the game has felt different, in some cases completely different. And what I mean by that is, for example, I've played with one group we were all super conservative with our plays. So someone would play a 10 and I had a 14 in my hand, and I did not want to play the 14, even though it seemed so safe of a move to play, because I'm worried someone by chance has the 11, the 12, or the 13. And obviously we can't communicate, so we can't tell each other that information. And so even just someone seeming like they want to play a card. I'm like, well, is he wanting to play a card because he has the 11, or is this something he wants to play in the 30s and he's just wanting to gauge everyone's reaction to this? And I've played with other groups where I put down a 20 and someone's throwing down a 53 without asking any questions whatsoever. And what happens in those situations is you learn the tendencies of your group, you learn the play style of the players around the table, and you adapt, and you start to notice, okay, when that specific person is hesitating, it's because they're a really conservative player, and they usually hesitate when they have a card that's 10 away. Whereas this player only hesitates when they have a card that's 50 numbers away. Otherwise, they're just ready to throw down. And so you can see them going quick, and hey, whoa, I have one too. It becomes this really hard to describe experience where there's almost this unspoken rule, and it can't even be put in the rule book. You have to adapt the game to your play group, and you're going to make your own rules in the sense that my specific game is going to have its own feeling compared to your game and your experience. And the only way to properly understand that is to play a game of the mind, because I was told all this before I played and I didn't quite get it. I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. Not being able to communicate, it kind of has this like party game feel. I'm sure that'll be kind of fun. But every single time I've played this game has felt different if the group makeup has been different. And even some cases when the group makeup has been the same because someone plays a little bit different with their style and we have to adjust. So the design, it's brilliant in the sense that there's this amazing mechanic that makes this game unique, but the mechanic almost didn't have to necessarily be designed by Wolfgang Warsch. It was left up to us to figure that part out. Like the design of my game, specifically when I play, is different than the design of your games. So, and that depends on your group. So what I'm trying to say here is that the design is simple on the surface, but the depth is whatever you make it. It's whatever your group makes it. And I really think that people will get a kick out of how different the game can feel playing not just at 2, 3, and 4 players, but also with your mom and your sister compared to your brother and his friend. Completely different experience depending on their play styles, and that's really what makes the design of this game just such a blast to play. One thing I will say, just it's not even really a gripe, it's just something I think that people should be aware of, is that the first few turns of the first time you play the mind are gonna feel very luck based. And you're gonna think, okay, is this what this game is? We can't communicate, so we're just guessing who can play cards. Like, that's not very fun. I think that it takes a few games and it takes a few turns with the first group you play with to understand that it seems like it's luck based, and at times there will be a luck element, but it's skill based, that you're learning your group and then the skill comes into play. So the first time you play and everyone has a single card in their hand, everyone's gonna be looking around the table being like, okay, what is this game? Like, who's playing first? How do we know who to play? And the first person to play it's gonna feel somewhat luck based, but you learn on that first turn. When someone accidentally puts a 30 down and then we realize someone had a 17, there's information you gain from, oh, that person didn't even seem that eager to play a 17. So that's their play style. Whereas someone was eager to play a card in the 30s, that's their play style. As that information comes out, the luck element kind of gets taken out of it, and the skill comes out and there's this moment of realization when you're realizing that you're better at the game as you learn your group, that just like puts a smile on your face, and I think that is just a genius design on his part. The Mind is honestly some of the most fun I've had in the last year with board games. Every session we've played has always ended, or during the session has had us just laughing like crazy, smiles all around. The moment where everyone has a card in their hand or a couple cards in their hand and they're all looking shifty eyes around the table, wondering who's going to play, and they think, okay, fine, I'll go. And then a bunch of hands going at the same time to play. Everyone just bursts out laughing because you get the concept in that moment. You realize like, okay, like I'm having to try to look at you and determine what you're thinking and what you have in your hand without having any information whatsoever. And that's just, it's like, I cannot explain how much fun it is. It's just something you have to try for yourself to really fully grasp. But it's honestly just, some of the most fun I've had. One thing I'll say is that it really requires the commitment of the players. This is one of those games sort of similar to something like Hanabi, or any game where you have to sort of hide information or be really vague with your expression. I've played with people who just, it's a struggle for them not to, if someone's about to play a card, to go and make a noise or whatever, even though you're not supposed to do anything whatsoever. This game requires that kind of commitment, so if you're a person who has a hard time with that and, you know, you can't give visual cues, you can't try to like communicate what numbers you have in your hand or with facial expressions or with like motioning fingers or whatever, if that's hard for you, this might not be the game for you. And if you're playing with a group where not everyone has that commitment, it might bring the enjoyment down or feel too easy. But as long as everyone buys in and is willing to realize it's a co-op game with some restrictions, it's so much fun. I cannot stress that enough. One of the other really cool things is just that there's no downtime. There's no turns. It's not, you know, I play a card, then you play a card. Anyone can play whenever. I can play 5 cards in a row if I think that that's the best play. So there's no downtime. You're always feeling like you have to be doing something. And even on the chance that you empty your hand first and the other players are still playing, you're still voting on the use of throwing stars. You're still rooting for your team to finish so that you can move on to the next level and get a new hand. So it just always feels like you're doing something, and yet it plays so fast that it's really often that the game ends and you're shuffling them back up saying, okay, let's go again. Like I've never sat down and just played a single game of the mind. It's always been 3 to 4 sessions at least, because they go quick and everyone gets it the first time and says, okay, I get it now, let's play again. And then, oh, we got close to the final level, let's try it again. Also, if you're not a fan of shuffling, this is not the game for you. At the end of every level, you're shuffling, constant shuffling, and you got to be doing a good job of it because you don't want to have a, you know, you want to try not to have clumps of the same number together, because it'll actually make your life harder if you have the 41, 42, 43, 44, 45 all in play and split amongst 4 people. You're actually going to have a tougher time making to the last level. So shuffling well is in your best interest, but you're going to be doing a lot of it. So like I said earlier, sleeve the game, be prepared to shuffle, and you will have a fantastic experience with the mind. And in terms of value, we're talking about a $10 to $15 game. This is one that I think you'll get tons of mileage out of, and for such a low barrier to entry, I mean, how can you go wrong? It's a game I've continuously played and never grown tired of. I could see maybe if you're only playing with the same group over and over again, and you already kind of like know each other's tells and your tendencies, and you've already beaten the game a bunch, you'll become an expert playing with that group, and eventually maybe this isn't a game you're as inclined to bring to the table. They have put in an expert mode for those situations where after you beat the last level, you can play in this mode where you're playing your cards blind now. So you restart at level 1, and instead of playing your cards face up to the table, you're playing them face down, and then after everyone's played their cards, you're flipping the stack over and looking at them in order to see if you hit them all in ascending order. Otherwise, you're taking a penalty for each one you didn't. I mean, you see how many levels you can make like that. Obviously, much harder. Just sort of a way to extend the length of the game once you get really good at it. I think that that's pretty much the only case where, you know, you're going to get tired of the mind. If you're playing with different people or different player counts, it's just a game that has so much lasting appeal. It's such a quick game to just say, okay, before we throw down Zolkin or Terraforming Mars, it's going to take us 2 to 3 hours. Let's play a quick game of the mind just to get us all in the mood and ready for that. Or at the end of the night after you've played a couple big games and everyone's wanting to go home, but you just want to play one more game, really quick one, have some laughs, and then head out. I can't stress enough how much value there is in this game and how much there has been for me anyways. I would highly recommend it, especially for such a low cost. I just think you can't go wrong. I was honestly instantly ecstatic about having the mind in my collection, and I feel like anyone who buys it is going to have that same feeling. It had such a lasting appeal to me. It's just been something that no matter what group I've been playing with, I can bring it to the table at the start or end of a night or after a long game, and everyone has a blast. We're all laughing. For such a low barrier to entry and for how much your mileage you're going to get out of this game, I cannot recommend this game enough. I think that it should be in everyone's collection. It's a simplistic game. There's not a lot of complexity, but it is what you make it. If you guys as a group go all in on the concept and really like go by the rules of not communicating, I think you're going to have a really, really good time with this, and I don't think you're going to regret buying the mind. This is one that I just think everyone should play and everyone should have. If you want any more thoughts on the mind, a little bit more in depth, you can check out our written review. Otherwise, go to allyoucanboard.com for tons more gaming content. Check out our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram. Connect with us if you want to give us suggestions of things you'd like to see, or comment on this video or any other videos if you have any thoughts you want to share with us. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.